There are times in life when you just need a break and just do something different. Go on holiday, change your job, move your house, whatever it is. When it comes to modelling, there are times when I just go, right, stop everything, I need to do something totally different and clear my head. And today is one of those days, so we are going to build this. But this is going to be a build 100% aimed at just having a bit of fun. So step one has us building up the cockpit, but I'm not going to bother because I really like that black canopy. I think that looks quite cool. So I'm going to smoke my canopy out so you can't really see through it. So you don't really need to bother with all the stuff inside. So we will put in part 2 just because it might help with the alignment of some of these other parts, but otherwise scrap the rest of it. So let's start by finding that part, which I think is this one here. So that's my first 4 parts. Just want to get rid of my sprue. So one of the things that I like to do is cut the sprues down as a build. Gives me a sense of completion, I guess. But yeah, it's so those bits go in my sprue bin. So let's have a look at the fit. Okay, yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. So we will start by cleaning this up and getting it into this upper fuselage here. So it goes in there like so. So we need a little bit of test fit. Yeah, that's okay. So let's get some glue in that. That's our first part done. Right, test fitting that, and actually that fits in quite nicely. You're all over the place on that front edge when it's done. So if you wanted to show the inside of the cockpit, you'd have some filling and awkward sanding to do. But I am not, so this is purely in just to make sure that it helps with any fit of the fuselage. It's the only reason it's here. So while that's drying, we can have a look at these other parts. So let's start with tidying up the lower fuselage and getting these nubs off. So making sure your surfaces are nice and flat and flash free is important. Just saves you more time, because if you get things to fit nicely, you don't have to spend time filling it and then sanding the filling. So let's put the tail in next. Just chunk that out. It's not the most positive of fits, but there's nothing there for it to relate to, so we will go with this. That feels right. So it's actually only making contact on the 2 edges. Okay, so go. Oh, okay, that fits in there like that. Okay. There's a bit of a gap on one side, so if you are having the landing gear out, you're going to have to do a little bit of filling on that one, but not on that one. For now, I'm going to glue these wings in and see what happens. I've not had to do any clamping or anything like that. The fit is not too bad actually. And as soon as I say that, we need to clamp it. I'm just going to peg that end. This end is coming up a little bit, if you can see that. So we need to just clamp that down as well. That'll do it. Some glue in that joint. So give that a sec to dry, and then we can do the mate in halves. And while we're doing that, we can put the air intakes together. So we'll treat these as sub-assemblies and clean them up, ready to go on. That's that one. There's quite a lot of flash on this bit here. So I am going to use a knife just to carve that away a little bit. It's not very positive. You have to align it all yourself and then hold it there while you put your glue in. That's the air intakes done. Right, let's have a look at how this all fits together then. Okay, everyone hold their breath. Oh, that's not so bad. Yeah, that's not looking too shabby. So, I'm going to start at the back. I'm going to change glues because we've got a little bit of gap. So, thicker glue is just going to be helpful. It gives me a little bit more time to manipulate it because it's slower drying. What you want to do is align it as well as you can. Hold it in place. Give it a squeeze, see where it needs clamping. Okay, well that's our two fuselage halves all come together. So next job is the tail. So a bit of gentle sanding needed just to restore the shape and try not to lose your raised panel line, which is almost impossible, of course. I just want to make sure that we go around all of these seams and just smooth them down, because they will show under paint. That's the tail done. So put that to one side as well. Okay, glue's dried now, and we can see that we've got some seam line, join lines to clean up. So that's the next job. Does mean we will lose some panel line, unfortunately. Okay, I've spent some time going around this and cleaning it up, and yeah, it doesn't look too bad. One tip I will say is that the way these are moulded is that they're not square, they sort of tail out, so you can do a lot of the cleanup by simply scraping the join line rather than having to sand it all. It's quite a quick way of getting it down and back into shape actually. So just need to square off the inside of here so that we don't have anything that gets in the way of the nose cone going together. Okay, do it properly. Okay, so tail goes, oh no, tail and air scoops at this stage, so we can put the tail in first. Let's dry fit that. That goes in okay. So there needs to be a slight angle on this part, I think. So at the moment it's flat 90 degrees, and what I do, rather than it being flat like that, I want to put a bit of an angle on it so that it sits back against that part better. This is fun, 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 fun. Oh, that's, see, look at the difference that's made already. Okay, let's glue that in. Okay, brilliant. Right, let's have a stab at getting the next one in. Okay, our scoops are on. That completes step 5. Oh no, it doesn't. I beg your pardon. We've got the engines to go in, 14 and 15. So that's these parts here. Right. So be careful with this part. Don't mistake that for a lump of plastic to come off. It forms part of the back end. So I'm going to remove the nubs. And we'll clean this part up first. And see how it fits. Okay, so we've got that in. Horrid. But anyway, all good fun, which is what we're in it for, and that is the end of step 5. Now, step 6 is undercarriage, which we're going to omit. So we're going straight to parts 31 and 25. Okay, so we are ready to do undercarriage. So let's have a look at these first. fit is not good. There's a bit of flash there that I think's interrupting the fit a bit, but yeah, wants to push itself back up. I think it might be snagging on that part there, so I'm going to just trim that down. See if that makes a difference. Oh yeah, that's made a difference. Yeah, so that fits much better. So there's a little lump there. You need to remove that if you're putting these bits in. The other issue we've got is that is oversized. So we're just going to shorten it a bit. That goes in no problem at all now, he says. So that one. Coming from this side and clamp that one. There we go. So a bit more tricky than it needs to be, I think, but there you have it. Right, let's get this piece on now. So this bit goes at the front, doesn't, and then we have a smaller bit at the back. I'm going to need that back piece in first. Now this is a bit of a soft bit of moulding, like a wobbly jelly, so we just need to straighten up all these edges. The instruction picture's that poor, you don't really know which way around to put this. Well, it's in to a fashion Okay, so that is our step 6 done. Step 7 is then about ordnance and what we want to do with that. And we've got some parts that go in there as well. Okay, so end of the wings have little rockets. So that's these parts here. I am not sure that I actually want to put this big bomb on the bottom of this anyway. I think it's going to detract from the look of it, so we're not going to put that on. So we can bin that. Okay, so in terms of ordnance, we're going to have these little rockets that sit on the end of the wings. They're mounting points that go on the wings. Then these, which I think have some form of air brake to go on. Nose, cone, front cone. And then we're pretty much ready for canopy. So we now have the nose in place, and like the other parts, the fit's okay, not brilliant. You know, if I was doing this as a serious model, there's a lot of work needed to even things up and scrap the panel lines and so on. As we're just building this for a bit of light relief and a bit of fun, I am not so bothered. Anyway, it has gone together okay. I'm just going to rub down the join here. The nose cone is 2 parts, just so it's a bit smoother under paint, that's all. I'm not in any shape or form trying to make it look reasonable. I just want it to not look lumpy. That makes sense. Does that make sense? I don't know. Now the nose cone with the tube on the front is a separate part, and I just want to blend that in a little bit as well. So there we have it. The only things outstanding is the canopy, which again fit is okay. So it's 2 parts. Got the front windscreen, windshield, whatever it's called, and the canopy there. Now we're painting this all over black, and we're painting this gunmetal. You will see what that looks like in a mo. But what we're going to do is we're going to paint this black. So we're using Vallejo Model Air for painting this, and we're going to do it old-fashioned with a big brush, no airbrush. So this is Model Air unthinned. And the first coat is just to give us some coverage, basically to act like a primer, because, yep, there is no primer on this either. So we'll do the top, and then we'll worry about the underneath when that's dried. Now I'm going to do the engines a slightly different colour, just for added coolness. Okay, first coat of varnish is down and she's looking suitably shiny. So I'm going to put the decals on now. Now, as aircraft go, this isn't decal heavy, just the 2 stars that go on either side of the tail. So this ain't going to take long. Whilst I'm waiting for the decals to soak, we'll just get my equipment out. So what I do is I blot it first because that just helps squeeze any water out. And next thing we're going to do is just squeegee it with a brush. I've dipped the brush in some Microsol, so we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Not expecting any problems with the decals. So first one on. Whilst I was doing that, the second one has floated off. We will leave that to dry. I'm just having a bit of fun with this now, and these little rockets on the wings here I'm picking out in a pale burnt iron colour, just for a bit of fun really, no particular reason. And then all we've got left to do is a final coat of varnish. And then we'll get back to a bit of serious modelling ships. That should look pretty cool against the black, I think. Okay, going to stick the canopies on now. Now, this is just a bit of fun, and we're having a break from doing some serious modelling, so I'm not going to mess around with canopy glues and that sort of stuff. I'm just going to stick it on. Okay, now in theory, there we go. Fit of that is not too shabby. You can see the glue working its way into that. I think the gunmetal canopy looks pretty cool. So if we compare that to the box, where they've gone with a high gloss black, yeah, mine's better. Definitely mine's better. Right, we have a gloss coat left to do to make it ultra gloss. So ahead of a major project, I'm experimenting with this range of varnishes. So this is the gloss one. I've got a satin and a matte as well. I'm intending to use these on this new major project coming up. So I just want to have a play with it and see how it works. Now, the first layer of varnish on this was using this neat. And what I want to do now is, it's an acrylic, so I want to actually get stuck in and thin it a little bit with some water and see what happens. So it's quite thick and gloopy as a varnish. I couldn't put that through my airbrush like that, so I just want to see how it behaves when it's thinned. And we're not going to airbrush this, we're going to brush this. So let's take a view. So I've wet my brush. Gonna chuck. This is just basic tap water. I'm using it to thin it. Now I can see that it's going slightly cloudy. I think that will go once it's down and dries off. So let's brush this on and see what happens. That's interesting. So it doesn't want to go down evenly once it's been thinned with water. So that's a good lesson learned. You can see it's all collecting here. Now, as I brush back over it second time, it's spreading a lot better. But then it's recollecting. That's interesting. So it's sort of pooling. So I'm guessing that's because we've thinned it with the water. I am not sure. There's no instructions for thinning it on the bottle. So I'm putting it down a little bit more cautiously now. Smaller amounts, a little bit at a time, see how that works. and it's pooling less with me working in smaller areas, so that's also interesting. Whether it's not mixed enough, I don't know, but as I work it, it's sort of thinning and covering. We will persevere. I'm going to do this tail area now, because I want to see how this varnish reacts with decals. But what I'm finding is as I go over and do a second coat, it doesn't pool. So that's interesting. Now let's see how it behaves on a clear coat, on a clear part. I'll put some on the wing. Certainly going down better second time. Of course, the more varnish we put on, the more the glossy shine we get. Underneath the plane has had 2 coats of neat, so I'll be able to compare the two in a minute. Definitely behaving better second time. Now, I don't know whether that's because it's had more time sitting there in the palette dish. I don't see why that would make a difference. But it's not pooling. So this is all good learning. We'll have to have a play with the airbrush, see how it goes through the airbrush, but it's an acrylic varnish, so in theory I should be able to thin it with water. What we don't want to do is a great paint job and then ruin it with a varnish.